Nathan Brooks came home from heart surgery a day early to surprise his wife. The surprise was on him. The nurse's smile didn't quite reach her eyes as she handed Nathan Brooks the discharge papers. "You're good to go, Mr. Brooks." "Doctor signed off early," she said. "Your recovery is ahead of schedule." Nathan gave a faint nod, though the dull ache in his chest reminded him he wasn't quite whole yet. 4 nights in a hospital bed after a coronary bypass procedure, nights spent listening to machines hum, fluorescent lights flickering above, and not a single visit from his wife, Claire Patterson. She had texted once, claiming hospitals made her anxious. Said the smell of antiseptic turned her stomach. But what hurt wasn't the excuse. It was the silence, the absence, the empty hours where love should have shown up and didn't. Nathan told himself not to overthink it. Maybe she was overwhelmed. Maybe she just didn't know how to deal. Still, somewhere beneath the gauze and stitches, something in him had already begun to detach. The cab ride home was quiet. Denver moved like a blur outside the window, but Nathan's thoughts were slower, heavy. He thought about the way morning light hit their kitchen counter, about the smell of Claire's coffee lingering in ceramic mugs, about the comfort of their bed. He wondered if she'd be surprised to see him home early. Maybe she'd smile. Maybe she'd cry. As the car pulled into the driveway of their Highland neighborhood home, that gentle fantasy cracked. Claire's car was already there, parked not straight, but haphazardly across the concrete like she'd rushed in and never looked back. That wasn't like her. She prided herself on appearances, on order. Nathan stared at the car a second too long, a dull weight pressing against his sternum, only part of it caused by surgery. He paid the fare, stepped out, and lifted his overnight bag, moving toward the door. The house was still lights off downstairs, no music, no smell of dinner, only a dim, pulsing glow from upstairs. He didn't call out. He didn't announce his arrival. Something told him not to. Something deeper than suspicion, instinct. He climbed the stairs, the creaking beneath his feet louder than usual, and stopped outside their bedroom. The door was slightly ajar. The light inside cast a warm but distorted hue. Nathan pushed gently, almost hoping it would be empty, but it wasn't. Claire was there, and so was a man Nathan had never seen. They were tangled together in the bed they had bought 6 years ago, the one she had once joked was too firm, the one they had chosen after testing half the showroom. Her laughter, light, breathless, cut through him sharper than any blade. The sheets were pulled halfway over them. His pillow had been tossed aside. The nightstand still held their wedding photo, tilted at an odd angle, as if watching the whole thing unfold in stunned silence. Nathan didn't move. He didn't gasp. He didn't speak. The world had gone completely quiet. His breath was shallow. His eyes didn't blink. The pain wasn't explosive. It was hollow. A cavernous ache that started somewhere in his spine and echoed through his chest. They didn't see him. Not yet, too lost in their moment. Too sure he wouldn't be there. 10 seconds passed. Maybe more. Time folded in on itself. Then Nathan stepped back slowly, carefully. No anger, no drama. He walked down the stairs with the same stillness he used to navigate dangerous terrain overseas. Back to the waiting cab, engine still idling. The driver glanced at him. "Everything okay?" Nathan's voice was low, barely audible. "Drive. Where to?" "Downtown," he said. And as the car pulled away from the home that no longer felt like his, Nathan didn't look back. He closed his eyes and let the silence wrap around him. Not the silence of peace, but of betrayal so deep, so sharp that words would only weaken it. This wasn't grief, not yet. This was the moment just before the storm, when everything is unbearably still. The city blurred past the window as the cab slid silently through Denver traffic. But Nathan Brooks' mind was sharper than it had been in days. The pain in his chest from the surgery was nothing compared to the quiet burn building inside him now. There was no fury, no trembling rage, just a deep, pulsing clarity. Something had snapped back into place when he saw Claire Patterson with that stranger in their bed. The woman she had become wasn't the woman he'd married. She wasn't worth another second of heartbreak. But that didn't mean she would walk away untouched. "Take me downtown," he told the driver again. And 20 minutes later, they pulled up in front of a modest but familiar brick building tucked between 2 high-rises on 16th Street Mall. Nathan stepped out slowly, overnight bag still slung over his shoulder, hospital bracelet barely cut from his wrist. He didn't bother fixing his jacket or checking the dark circles under his eyes. None of it mattered now. Not his appearance, not his image, only the outcome. Raymond Price had been his friend for years, an old buddy from the days when Nathan fixed computers on the side while transitioning out of the military. Raymond had since become one of the sharpest attorneys in Colorado, and he owed Nathan more than a few favors. When Nathan walked into the office unannounced, Raymond looked up from behind his desk, startled. You're supposed to still be in the hospital. Nathan closed the door gently behind him. Plans changed. Raymond had motioned to the seat across from him. What happened? Nathan sat down without a word, reached into his bag, and pulled out a thick folder. He placed it on the table with care, like setting down a loaded weapon. She's been cheating, he said flatly. I saw them in our bed today. Raymond blinked, his brow tightening. Claire with who? Some professor. Kyle Morrison. I didn't get his full story. I didn't need to. His voice was calm, measured. Too calm, the kind of calm that made men nervous. He tapped the folder once. Everything you need is in there. Raymond opened it slowly, flipping through page after page of bank statements, property deeds, signed trust documents, power of attorney forms, private account summaries, and a quiet trail of financial restructuring. You already moved everything? Raymond said, glancing up. 14 months ago. Nathan nodded once. The house, the business, the savings transferred, consolidated, locked. She still thinks she has access to all of it. Raymond sat back in his chair, exhaling through his nose. She has no idea you prepared for this. She never bothered to notice, Nathan said. And now she's going to find out what she never cared to understand. Raymond kept scanning the file, his tone shifting from curiosity to respect. You restructured the company into a trust last year. Made Sam your sole beneficiary. She didn't even update her power of attorney after the wedding. No, I made sure she didn't think she had to. Nathan's eyes were like steel now. She wanted the illusion of control. I gave it to her. And now I want the papers filed today. Divorce with full documentation. Let her get served before she even figures out the bank accounts are frozen. Do you want temporary restraining orders? Yes, and I want to flag the joint account. She's been siphoning money, some of which came from my VA disability benefits. That qualifies for federal review. Jesus, Raymond muttered. You're going scorched earth. Nathan stood up. No, I'm not destroying anything. I'm preserving what's mine. He paused, then looked Raymond in the eye. She made her choice. I'm just making sure she lives with it. Raymond picked up his phone. Give me 2 hours. Nathan nodded. I'll be back. Keep everything confidential. He turned without another word, walked out of the office, and stepped into the afternoon Colorado sun like a man not recovering from surgery but rising from a battlefield. It wasn't revenge, not yet. But it was the first move on a board Claire never realized she was playing. By the time the sun began to slip behind the Denver skyline, the house Nathan Brooks once called home had already begun its transformation from a space of warmth and shared memories to a calculated fortress that no longer belonged to Claire Patterson. The locksmith arrived within hours of his meeting with Raymond Price. Nathan didn't wait. Every lock on every door was replaced. The garage opener was reprogrammed. The home security system, once installed with Claire's preferences in mind, was reset entirely. The passcode she had chosen, her birthday of course, was erased from the system. Nathan called the alarm company himself and had her listed as unauthorized access. No notifications, no warnings, just silence, precision, one step at a time. He moved through the house with deliberate ease, removing the keys she had duplicated, collecting the spare sets, changing out the hidden lockbox codes. This wasn't an outburst. It was a transition, one she would never see coming. Next came the finances. The joint checking account, once a shared resource, was frozen within 10 minutes of his request. Nathan moved the remaining $28,500 into a private account Claire had never known existed. He'd opened it months ago under a separate trust name, quietly redirecting dividend payouts and service income. The banker, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes, barely blinked when Nathan explained the need for immediate restriction of Claire's access. She's been using the card like it's bottomless, he said calmly. She hasn't checked the balance today, but she will. The banker nodded, printed out a confirmation form, and handed it to him with quiet respect. You're not the first, she said softly, but you might be the most prepared. Not prepared, Nathan replied. Just done pretending. After that, he made one more call to the luxury dealership where Claire's beloved Lexus RX 350 had been leased under Nathan's name. She always boasted it was hers. Loved to talk about the leather seats and backup camera as if she paid for them herself. But Nathan knew better. He had negotiated the buyback clause when they signed the lease. And now, with a single signature and a scan of his ID, the dealership agreed to send a team to collect the vehicle that same afternoon. No notice to her, no confrontation, just gone. By early evening, Nathan stood across the street in the passenger seat of Raymond's black SUV, sipping coffee slowly as he watched the final act unfold. Claire walked up the driveway first, followed closely by Kyle Morrison, her smug affair partner. They looked relaxed, confident, maybe even happy. She reached into her purse, pulled out her key, and inserted it into the door. It didn't turn. She tried again. Nothing. A moment passed. Confusion crept across her face. Kyle stepped forward, tried his own key, probably a spare she'd given him, also useless. Claire knocked, then banged. Her voice rose. "Nathan, open the door." "This isn't funny." Nathan didn't move. Raymond handed him the coffee. "You good?" he asked. Nathan nodded once, in control. "Let her scream," he murmured. Kyle's voice joined in now, louder, frustrated. "Yo, man, come on. Don't make this a thing. We're not here to fight." Nathan took another sip. He didn't look angry. He didn't even look interested. He looked finished. Claire's knocking became pounding. Her tone shifted from anger to panic. "My card was just declined at the gas station," she said to Kyle. "And where the hell is my car?" She couldn't understand. "Nathan, please." Nathan set the empty coffee cup down in the console and turned to Raymond. "Let's go." As the SUV pulled away from the curb, Nathan looked back one last time. Claire had collapsed on the porch, shoulders shaking. Kyle stood off to the side, face lit by the screen of his phone, probably trying to figure out where the car had gone. Nathan didn't smile. He didn't wave. He didn't gloat. He simply watched. Then he turned forward, eyes clear, voice steady. Checkmate. There were no raised voices, no thrown objects, no final arguments, just quiet removal. It wasn't revenge. Not yet. It was reclamation. He wasn't the victim anymore. He was the one holding the board. The morning after the lockout, Nathan Brooks sat on the patio of a quiet downtown Denver hotel, watching the world move on without him. The sun rose clean and golden between the high-rise buildings. People passed with coffees in hand and earbuds in, all chasing routines. For the first time in days, he felt nothing. No sting, no ache, just a stillness that came when the anger was gone and only purpose remained. His phone buzzed once, then again, then again. 12 missed calls from Claire Patterson. 8 from an unknown number. A voicemail. He didn't listen. He already knew what the voice would say. Confusion, excuses, maybe fake concern. None of it mattered now. Instead, Nathan opened his laptop and logged into the secure client portal Raymond Price had set up for him. Everything was lined up. Divorce papers filed. Petition for temporary restraining order filed, supported by video footage pulled directly from the home's security system. Yes, Nathan had reviewed the recordings. She hadn't even bothered to close the blinds. The camera in the hallway caught it all. Her laughter, the bed shifting, the betrayal made real in digital timestamps. The footage would speak for itself in court, but it had already spoken loud enough to Nathan. Next, he reviewed the documents for the civil suit. Claire had withdrawn $41,850 from their joint savings account over the last several months. Money Nathan had quietly monitored while preparing his financial exit. What made it worse and legally actionable was the fact that a portion of that money came directly from his military disability benefits, federally protected VA funds. Claire had either ignored that detail or didn't care. Either way, it gave Nathan the green light to file for fraud and potential felony-level misappropriation. If she returned the money, it would be handled civilly. If she didn't, it would become criminal. He didn't care which path it took. The outcome would be the same. She would lose. But that wasn't all. Nathan clicked into another folder and opened the email draft he had been crafting since 3 a.m. It was addressed to the Title IX office and the Office of Academic Integrity at the University of Colorado, Denver, where Claire worked part-time in administration, and where Kyle Morrison, her affair partner, held a tenured faculty position. The message was concise, formal, and backed with documentation. Screenshots of Claire's calendar entries showing personal time taken during work hours, location data that placed her at Kyle's office or faculty housing during those windows, and receipts, gas, food, and even a short-term rental payment all charged to the joint account. The implication was clear. A faculty member engaging in an inappropriate relationship with a university staffer, both using school hours and resources. It wasn't just a scandal. It was policy violation territory. Nathan attached the evidence in a zipped file and clicked send. Less than 2 hours later, he received a response. "Thank you for your report. This matter has been forwarded to the Office of Academic Integrity and Human Resources for immediate review." That was enough. He didn't need to see the fallout. He just needed to know the first domino had tipped. Later that day, Claire sent a text. "Please, can we just talk? Everything's gotten out of control. We didn't mean to hurt you like this." Nathan almost laughed. They hadn't meant to hurt him. They just hadn't thought he would fight back. They'd expected quiet collapse. A man too stunned to retaliate. Instead, they got silence and strategy. They got a man who understood patience. A man who knew that real damage didn't come from shouting. It came from precision. Kyle Morrison would soon be facing an internal investigation. His name was already flagged in the financial trail Claire left behind. Transfers from their joint account to Kyle's Venmo. Some labeled thank you or getaway weekend. Rookie mistakes, traceable ones. Nathan didn't need revenge. He needed truth. And the truth, when organized into affidavits, timestamps, and policy violations, spoke louder than any confrontation ever could. By nightfall, the storm was no longer inside him. It had moved outside into courtrooms, into inboxes, into HR departments and compliance offices. And Nathan, he simply sat in silence, drinking black coffee, reading the final line of the university's follow-up email one more time. If confirmed, disciplinary action may include suspension or termination. That would do. The board was still moving, but the game was no longer in their hands. The Sunday afternoon air was heavy with the kind of suburban stillness that tried to appear serene, but always felt staged. Nathan Brooks pulled into the driveway of the Patterson residence, meticulously trimmed hedges, porch decor for every season, and a mailbox that probably hadn't seen a late bill in 20 years. He stepped out of the car in a dark button-down and slacks, carrying nothing but a slim charcoal folder tucked under his arm. No fanfare, no ceremony, just purpose. The house belonged to George and Patricia Patterson, Claire's parents, people who had spent 12 years offering polite smiles dipped in condescension. Patricia had once told Nathan at Thanksgiving, with her wine glass hovering just above judgment, "You're not exactly the man we prayed for, but at least you pay the bills." The door opened before he could knock. Claire stood there in worn jeans and a t-shirt that didn't match her usual polished image. Her face paled the moment she saw him. "What are you doing here?" Nathan's voice was calm even. "I brought something for your parents." Patricia appeared in the doorway behind her daughter like a ghost summoned by tension. Her eyes narrowed and the familiar smirk formed. "Oh, the ghost returns." Nathan didn't flinch. "May I come in?" Claire hesitated. Patricia tilted her head. "It's fine. Let the man speak." They led him to the living room where George sat in his recliner, flipping half-heartedly through a golf magazine. Nathan remained standing. "5 minutes," Claire muttered. "Less," he promised. He placed the folder on the glass coffee table, opened it slowly and pulled out the first document. A printed spreadsheet detailing $41,850 in unauthorized withdrawals from the joint account he had once shared with Claire. The rows included timestamps, transaction notes, and one particular transfer labeled Weekend Cabin sent directly to Kyle Morrison's Venmo. "This," Nathan said, looking at George, "is what your daughter did with our savings." He set the next paper down. It was an email printout from the university's Office of Academic Integrity confirming an open investigation into Kyle and Claire for inappropriate workplace conduct. They used school property, school hours, and your daughter's position in admin to make this affair more convenient. He slid it toward Patricia without breaking eye contact. "It's already been escalated to HR." The third document was the one that drew the most silence, a copy of the new deed to the home Claire thought she still had rights to. Nathan pointed to the notarized transfer of ownership dated 3 weeks before she had been locked out. "The house was legally sold to a private buyer," he said. "Sam Brooks, my cousin. He leased it back to me short-term under a private agreement, which means every night Claire spent there after I changed the locks, she was trespassing." Patricia's face twisted. "You're bluffing." Nathan didn't respond. He simply turned the page toward George, who now read with tightened brows and thin lips. Claire began to tremble, her arms folding tightly against her chest. "You'll be hearing from my lawyer," she said quietly. Nathan raised a brow. "Good. Then you'll understand I'm also filing to recover the missing funds, and I've documented misuse of VA disability benefits. That's a federal felony." Then came the final document. He placed it on the table like a closing argument. One single sheet, a mortgage assistance cancellation notice. "This is what I stopped paying last week," he said, addressing Patricia and George directly. "For the past 14 months, I've been quietly covering your monthly mortgage payments. I never said a word. Planned to surprise you with a payoff in December." He shrugged, but things change. Patricia's smirk vanished. George dropped the magazine onto the floor. Claire's eyes welled with something that looked like regret, but Nathan didn't care. "For 12 years, he said, his voice low and razor-sharp, I showed up. I worked. I protected your daughter's reputation. I paid the bills. I defended her when no one else did. And in return, I came home from the hospital and found her with another man in my bed." He turned to Patricia. "And you encouraged it. You never thought I measured up. So now I'm finally living down to your expectations." He closed the folder and tucked it back under his arm. As he walked to the door, voices erupted behind him. Claire pleading, Patricia sobbing, George shouting. Nathan didn't turn around. He opened the door himself, stepped outside, and closed it behind him without a sound. It wasn't revenge. It was justice served not with fury, but with facts. Not with yelling, but with truth. He didn't need them to like him. He only needed them to understand that everything they once looked down on had now risen above them. The silence that followed was louder than any confrontation could ever be. Weeks passed, and Nathan Brooks didn't say a word. Not to Claire Patterson, not to anyone in her world. He didn't need to. The consequences had already started unraveling, one thread at a time, pulling apart the illusion she had built around herself. It began with the eviction notice. Claire had ignored the warnings at first, assuming Nathan's coldness was temporary and that the house was still hers by some twisted logic. But when two sheriff's deputies arrived in uniform, posted the order publicly on the front door, and gave her 24 hours to vacate, reality hit like a slap. Neighbors watched from behind blinds as she pleaded, cried, and ultimately packed her things in silence. Kyle Morrison wasn't there to help. He had his own disaster to manage. The university acted faster than anyone expected. The Title IX report. Nathan filed with documentation of Claire and Kyle's involvement during working hours and on school property had triggered a full internal review. The emails, time logs, and payment receipts Nathan had quietly collected were more than enough to prompt disciplinary action. Kyle was suspended immediately. Within days, his tenure was rescinded. The board issued a statement citing violations of academic ethics. His pension, once locked in for retirement, was stripped. And when the screenshots surfaced photos of Claire and Kyle together during work hours, some sent from university servers, the faculty message boards lit up with shock. But the final blow didn't come from the university. It came from Jessica Morrison, Kyle's wife. She hadn't known, not really. Not until she received a manila envelope in the mail, sent anonymously, of course, with restaurant receipts, payment transfers, and one particularly cruel message from Claire's phone. "He makes me feel alive again." Jessica filed for divorce the following week. As for Claire, the spiral continued. Her parents, Patricia and George Patterson, refused to answer her calls. The humiliation from Nathan's visit still echoed through their social circles. Patricia stopped attending her country club luncheons. George withdrew from his weekly golf group. Whispers followed them. Mortgage collectors, once held at bay by Nathan's quiet payments, now called daily. Claire moved in with a former coworker temporarily before settling for a one-bedroom apartment near a strip mall. And then came the job, the only one she could get, a retail position at a Target store. The same kind of job she used to mock privately. "That's what you do when you have no ambition," she once said. Now she wore the red uniform, scanned barcodes, smiled through gritted teeth. Still, she tried to rewrite the narrative. On social media, Claire cast herself as the victim. She posted vague quotes about emotional abuse, gaslighting, healing. Shared blurry selfies with tearful captions. She claimed Nathan had cut her off without compassion and used his influence to ruin her life. People, some friends, some strangers sent supportive comments, heart emojis, encouragement. For a moment, she almost had them. Until Nathan replied. He didn't use his real name. He created a burner account. One comment, one question posted beneath one of her emotional status updates. "Didn't you mock your disabled husband while he was in the hospital recovering from heart surgery, sleeping with your affair partner in his bed?" Curious if that's in your next post, too. The comment gained traction fast. Dozens of likes, shares. People started asking questions. Friends unfollowed. Some deleted her entirely. The carefully curated image Claire had clung to, glossy, broken, misunderstood, crumbled under the weight of undeniable truth. Nathan never replied again. He didn't need to. He watched it all unfold from a distance, never once stepping forward to gloat. No press releases, no phone calls, no revenge fantasies played out in public. Just silence. Purposeful, sharp, complete silence. He wasn't celebrating. He wasn't even angry anymore. He was simply done. And Claire, she was finally alone. Not the kind of loneliness you feel after a fight. The kind that settles in when you realize you've burned every bridge, exhausted every lie, and now stand alone in the ashes of what you built. Nathan didn't forgive her. He never said he would. But he didn't destroy her either. She did that all on her own. 1 year later, Nathan Brooks woke to the quiet lapping of lake water against the wooden dock outside his cabin. The air was cool, the sky washed in early hues of soft gold and blue. Birds sang, the kind of gentle melody that came with places untouched by chaos. The cabin was modest. 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen, a fireplace that crackled through the winter. It wasn't much, but it was his. Tucked on the edge of Lake Granby near Steamboat Springs, it offered everything he needed and nothing he didn't. He went fishing some mornings, not because he expected to catch anything, but because standing knee-deep in the stillness did something for his soul. Some afternoons he volunteered, helping fellow veterans navigate paperwork, housing applications, or just sitting with them while they talked about the weight they still carried. He understood that kind of weight better than most. Not the kind that comes from war, but from betrayal. With the help of Raymond Price, Nathan had launched a nonprofit 6 months ago, a quiet but powerful initiative aimed at helping military families secure legal representation, temporary housing, and emergency funds. It was funded in part by donations, in part by his own resources, but primarily by one consistent deposit, $6,425.75, transferred like clockwork on the first of every month. Court-ordered restitution. Claire Patterson's signature repayment for the money she took from their shared account, some of which included Nathan's protected VA disability benefits. He never touched the money personally. Every cent went into the nonprofit not out of spite, but out of purpose. Something broken had to become something useful. He believed in that now. People sometimes asked if he missed her, if in the quiet moments he thought about what could have been. He always gave the same answer: I don't miss her. I miss who I thought she was. He hadn't seen Claire since that day in her parents' living room. He had no idea where she was now. The restitution continued, but her voice, her image, her chaos, none of it followed him here. She had tried to reach out once, early on, through her attorney. Raymond had handled it. Nathan never responded. There was nothing left to say. He held no hatred. That surprised even him. For a long time, he'd imagined he would carry rage for years, that he'd replay the betrayal like a film on loop, unable to let it go. But standing on the dock one morning, mist curling off the lake, he realized something profound. Hatred is a chain. Forgiveness isn't always a gift you give the other person. It's the bolt cutter that frees you from their grip. Nathan didn't forgive Claire in the traditional sense. He didn't excuse her. He didn't justify what she did. But he released her. He let her go, not with mercy, but with finality. There would be no return, no reunion, no second act. Some people destroy their chance, and the most powerful response is to keep walking. Inside the cabin, the nonprofit's latest report sat printed on the dining table. 7 families assisted this quarter. One veteran reunited with his kids after a bitter custody fight. Another received emergency shelter after eviction. Nathan read through the names slowly, quietly, proud. None of them would ever know the story behind the funding. They didn't need to. That wasn't the point. Later that day, he took a walk down the gravel trail behind the cabin, stopping at a small wooden bench that faced the water. The breeze was gentle. His heart was steady. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't looking backward. People often mistake silence for weakness. They assume peace means surrender. But Nathan knew better. He had been the quietest man in the room, and he had won not through revenge, but through clarity. Not through violence, but through truth. This wasn't revenge. This was closure. And closure, when earned, is the loudest silence of all. Some betrayals don't deserve confrontation. They deserve consequences. Nathan Brooks' story reminds us that strength isn't always loud, and dignity isn't something others can strip away unless we let them. In silence, he reclaimed his life. In strategy, he protected his peace. And in walking away without looking back, he taught us this: healing begins not when they apologize, but when we stop waiting for it. Closure isn't revenge. It's choosing yourself without needing their permission. So if you've ever been broken, remember this: you don't have to burn down their house. You just have to stop letting them live in yours. Asterisk. If this story moved you, hit the like button and let us know in the comments what you think about Nathan's approach. Was it justice or was it revenge? If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, subscribe now and ring that notification bell to get alerts about powerful stories like this one. Every week we share real stories about people who refused to stay victims and chose to reclaim their power instead. Asterisk. Remember, healing begins not when they apologize, but when we stop waiting for it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.
Don't pity me. My heart doesn't need your mercy. I can still stand on my own. I was broken by your leaving, fell deeper than I thought I would. But pain has taught me how to heal now and survive what once I couldn't. You don't have to look back sadly, don't reach out with guilty hands. What you shattered made me stronger. Now I rise where I once collapsed. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow. I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling. I'll learn to breathe again. I once begged for your affection. Now I've learned my worth in scars. And the man you left in pieces found his own way through the dark. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow. I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling. I'll learn to breathe again. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow. I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling. I'll rise alone again. I'll rise alone again. I'm freezing. I'm bleeding, slowly fading away. But don't worry, I'm fine. The cold has settled in my heartbeat, like winter living in my veins. Every breath feels numb and fragile. Every smile just hides the pain. I'm breaking quietly in silence, falling slow without a sound. Yet I keep saying I'm okay, while my world burns to the ground. I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry. I'll pretend till my last breath. Even while my soul is fading, I'll say everything's okay. Maybe pain just learned to live here. Maybe sorrow feels like home. So I wear my wounds like armor and survive them all alone. I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry. I'll pretend till my last breath. Even while my soul is fading, I'll say everything's okay. If you ever see me smiling, know it's just my last self-defense, 'cause sometimes love means hiding how much you're suffering. No, I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry, I'll pretend till my last breath. Even while my soul is fading, I'll say everything's okay. It's okay.